Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now, before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like and comment on my video and consider subscribing to the channel. And we are in the most interesting part of the Hell Train at the moment. So we are entering the Tower of God Hell Train Saga, as it would be called, and the Hell Train Saga is broken up into several main sections, and this is going to be the first video covering the start of the Hell Train. Now, the start of the Hell Train is absolutely chaotic. There's pieces upon pieces, and there's so much to understand about what's going on. So, we already know where Balm is. I'm not going to talk about it. So, we start off this chapter with everybody heading towards the first station for the Hell Train. Now, there's a whole lot of things that are being held in the background of this, and the main foreshadowing that we get is Rachel is involved in this. Rachel has a team that consists of the people I mentioned before, Casino, Traveler, Daniel, Angel, Balsa, the mad dog of Balsa Elliot, the mad dog of Yama, and Apple and Michael. So those are her teammates who are helping her climb up the tower. But at the same time, Rachel is looking for ways to level up her power so that she can complete her own goal. She wants to take the fated path of the chosen one, and the fated path of the chosen one is the one who will get the red thorn and slash the king's throat. So that is who Rachel wants to be. Now, this is everything that we know about what Rachel is pursuing. So, in her route to get this here, she decides she's going to steal the Hell Train. And in order to steal the Hell Train, she's enlisted the help of Uraha. Uraha is one of the members of the 10 great families who has a grudge against them, to say the least. Now, Yuraha is informed about her entire relationship with Balm through Emily. Emily is the program that she's using on the phones, which can deceive and create false paths, which is also interfering with why Harwan can't exactly tell what's going on with Rachel. Now, at the same time, there's other things which are also at play. Rachel and Balm are unknowns to guides. Whatever they can tell about their parts doesn't really show what their parts are because they aren't from within the tower. Their life isn't dictated by the faith of Shinsu, if that's a way to say it. Their lives follow their own paths. So these two are a real wrench in the works for anybody who can see where destiny is supposed to go. And it makes things really difficult for anybody to figure out what's going on in this saga. So the next thing which happens is we find Viol on a train on the way to Train City. He ends up wiping out a whole lot of regulars because they're hunting tickets, and he ends up meeting up with a very odd duo or odd few individuals. He meets Borrow, his team with his two apprentices. That's Hanwul, the medic regular, and I don't remember the other individual. He also meets up with the train stewardess, whose name I don't remember correctly. But nonetheless, these are the people that he meets up with on the train, and they end up agreeing to go to Train City to take part in the tournament. Now, the tournament is being hosted by Emily, basically. Emily and the leaders of the Hell Train are actually consorting together to do a little bit of extra shenanigans. Now, Pedro, the Death Eye, is the administrator of the the Hell Train. He's in charge of it at the moment. And all of this is to do with what he is doing. He decided to pair up with Fug, and they have decided that they are going to do their own thing this year on the Hell Train in resurrecting a very old and powerful slayer um, of Fug. And that is Joaquin or White. Now, I'm saying it Joaquin because Hakun doesn't sound like a real name, and I really don't like it. I enjoy the way that Joe from Dr. Bonehead says it, so I'm using his way of saying it, Hakeem, and I'm just going to call him White for the most part because it's actually the this group of individuals from the Ari family was one of the best bloodlines in terms of continuing strength through their bloodline. There are two Aris in the 10 great families. The one is Ari Han and the other is Ari Hon. Ari Hon had a relationship with the Ha family, and that's where Yuraha comes from. And Arye Han, should I say, uh, is the one who has this family of swordsmen with the white hair. He's famous for these particular shenanigans. Now, here's something to note about them. The White family is a very unique family when it comes to swords. They have like unbelievable control over them. And the way in which they use a sword is not that it is actually physical, it actually turns a sword into a shinsu of sorts. So when they attack with it, they can move it like the shinsu would move for any other wave controller. So they can attack you from both sides. This is something that's given to us at the second part of the fight with everything that goes on with the Hell Train when Balm is actually fighting White for the first time, but I'm getting way ahead of myself. So, nonetheless, everybody starts gathering towards the Hell Train. Ran and his crew are massacring a train to try and get a hold of tickets and get on the Hell Train. One other thing, there are only 100 tickets to the Hell Train, and the moment you pass D rank regulars, that means you go up to to C rank regular, your ticket goes back to the rest of the regulars in D class. So D class regulars can keep getting onto that Hell Train no matter how many times they intend to do it. But the Hell Train is a very difficult place to go through. The Hell Train is actually a construction by the workshop made to help train the 10 great warriors. Uh, Actually, the 13 companions were climbing up the tower at the time. That's Jahad and all the great families, including Bam's parents. That is V, who we don't know the full name of, and Alan. So we know that all of them went through the Hell Train. They took on this nightmarish place, and when they came out, feuds started. It's at this point that a lot of the fighting starts between the 10 great families, and there is something for you to note about the climb up from this point forward. So let's get back to Train City. In Train City, everything is organized so that a lot of people are jumping in and out of places, getting to certain places to do whatever Rachel has instructed. Using Emily, she has gotten a lot of power. She started to trick regulars into getting ready to feed White. Now, White is a very special type of individual. I'll get to him as soon as it goes on later. Now, in order to trick them, she needed the assistance of Uraha. Uraha is an idol from the regulars in D class, and she's also a ticketer of the Hell Train. Now, one of the things to note is another person who will be joining the Hell Train who nobody knows about is Yuri Ha, right? So she's also going to be on the train, but nobody knows about it yet. She comes on way later. I'll explain when she comes on when the process gets into way. Now, the next thing to note about the Hell Train is a lot of shenanigans are happening in this first station called Train City. Now, I call it a station because it's the place where you board the train to start its journey. So in the city, the tournament is fake. It's being hosted by Emily, as I said. The whole idea is to trap all the regulars in there so they don't get onto the Hell Train. Because if there's too many regulars, there's a chance they can throw a wrench into the works of whatever Fug has planned. And if somehow there's somebody who's uniquely powerful or Balm had to get on board, they will not be able to resurrect White because it'll be too much of a hard time to get a hold of the regulars. To get a hold of White and to gather up his five siblings who make him up and resurrect him. Now I'm getting ahead of myself again, but that's the whole idea with why they don't want anyone on board the Hell Train. The second thing is they do plan to let Balm on the train, but they intend for Balm to get on the train much later after White has regained his full strength. Now, here's the thing about White. White is a high ranker. He's not a ranker level, he's a high ranker level. That means this is the first opponent who Balm would really have an extremely tough time to fight. He is well above the level that Balm can even touch. Remember, Balm was capable of drawing with rankers originally, then he got the nerf, which made him severely weaker, and now he is back at the level of being able to draw with the ranker. But he's not capable of beating the ranker. He can just hold them to a stalemate for a few minutes, and he can get an edge doing that there if they fight long enough. But nonetheless, this is where we are with the strength of Balm. So that is everything that's going on around this whole story. So they host this tournament and they start playing games. And the first two teams to meet each other are Yuraha versus Team Balm. Yuraha antagonizes Balm in an effort to trick him so that she can get more tickets for the Hell Train. Now, a part of their plan is they want to get as many tickets as they can so that less people can jump onto the train at later stops. Obviously, if all 100 tickets are held by just their team, they have 100 tickets to hold on that level. Nobody can get onto the Hell train again, and it's their ride as and when they please. So they manage to play the first trick, and everybody gets caught in the first trap. But on the way, Yura lost all of her tickets playing a little game with Balm because Balm showed that he is much more intelligent than we thought he was. He used smarts similar to the level of Kun to get through Uraha's defenses, and this really made things a bit difficult for Rachel's plan. So at this point, everybody starts racing up to get to the train itself, which is going to take off on the platform. Now, Team Fug has already basically planned everything out with Pedro, so they just have to get on and everything will be fine. Now, one moment. Just trying to get the right image here. All right. So in this entire commotion, they end up destroying the lift, which leads people through to the locations in the train city. So without it, nobody can move around. The administrators aren't in the right places, and they have switched off a lot of the protections of the city so that regulars can't move around because they're allowing regulars through. And this year allows a opening for Team Sweet and Sour, led by Kun. Now, at this point, Kun ends up leading Sweet and Sour into this place, and they are there particularly for one purpose. They want to capture Casino, and Kun wants to kill Rachel for what she did to his team. Remember, she murdered one of his teammates and she injured somebody else very, very badly. Plus, she's responsible for what happened to Baum all the way up to the workshop battle where they all almost got killed. So she's literally the biggest bad guy so far in all of this part of the story. However, I'm just going to say one thing. Hold off your judgment on Rachel till we reach the end of her story. I have a feeling that around floor 130, 132, we're going to get to see Rachel die and we'll get her entire story. Trust me, her story is most probably going to be as big as an entire arc, just telling us everything that she knows. And it's going to be then that Balm really has to fight Jahad. And I'm suspecting by the time he reaches floor 130, Balm is going to be on the top 10 rankers levels. And by the time he reaches floor 132 or 133, he is going to be on the level of the top five ranks in the tower. That's how powerful Bomb is going to have to get. And by the time he reaches 134, I'm going to suspect that he's going to be a full five ranks below Jahad in terms of ranking. But his fight with him is going to be intense, and we're going to find out what has been hiding within him at that point, because the power of an emperor is something that we are told that's within him in the saga. So, nonetheless, the whole train city story is now going down. Everybody is rushing towards the platform. Team Fug has made it all the way up to the platform, and they are sitting outside of anybody's influence at this moment. They are safe in the place where they are residing. And one moment. Okay, so getting back to that whole point. So everybody is rushing towards the Hell train. Team Fug, as I'm going to call them right now, who's being led by Rachel, are already on the platform ready to go. They're waiting for Yuraha and her additional teammate to get on board. Now, understand that they need a full team for what they're going to do, and they have one empty slot for the sake of the person they're resurrecting on the train for White. So that's what the whole idea is, a eight-man team on the train who will continue on after the train and keep moving together. That is their big plan with White. So the whole thing that's going on here is Yuraha is trying to get onto the train because she has her own objective. I'll explain her objective when it becomes relevant in a few mini arcs inside here. I'm actually going to call them arcs on their own. This whole first station situation is a whole arc all to itself. Now, at this point, Balm is actually fighting through to get to the platform. Yuraha makes a break for it. She switches on the Guardian. Balm makes it through. So does Boros. So does Harwan. And Boro ends up taking on the swordsman who is helping um, Yura. His name is Chuan Ha. No, sorry, no. Dan Chuan. I'm not exactly sure his name. I know that they call him Swordsman all the time, but I do remember getting his name in the story. But nonetheless, he is taken on by Boro, and Boro is a master against weapons. Now, here's the weird thing about Boro. Boro was part of a team with one of the top three D rank regulars, Sachi Faker, their defender, aka Williams, and also with them were two other members, Daniel Hatchett, their scout, and their light bearer, Rowena. Now, this five-man team was a very unique team because they were extraordinarily skilled. Boro was the fisherman capable of fighting with anybody with a weapon at just an unbelievable level. He's practically invincible against weapons. The only exception to that rule is the Ari family because of their ability to use swords like Shinsu, which changes that whole ability between it being a weapon and Shinsu at the same time, making it really difficult to fight against them. So he isn't any good against them. And this is basically where the story kicks off on a whole other level. He ends up beating Chanwa or Danwa. I'm not sure. Chanwa and Danwa are two members from the same situation. Their story is explained at this point. Now, Danwa and Chanwa are two members who we meet in chapter 1 and in this chapter. They both have ignition weapons. The first ignition weapon we meet is Namada, and the second one we meet is I'm forgetting the name of the second weapon, but nonetheless, these two weapons are ignition weapons, not loving ignition weapons, ignition weapons. But they're unique weapon because they were sealed. The way they became ignition weapons was they had the soul of a demon split and sealed into them. So the demon is split into 6 or 7 blades. I'm not exactly sure on the count. I think it's 6 blades. And each one of these swords, these ignition weapons, holds a piece of its soul. And their forebearers beat this beast. And after that, they bound its soul into the blades so that it could never reincarnate again and come back for them. So we know that that's part of the Tower of God world. Things like this happen. So moving on from this point, the next thing that happened was uh, I'm getting a bit choked up on this, but nonetheless, a fight occurred on the next section when Daniel Hatchett, one of the members of Rachel's team, drops down to fight Balm. And while he's fighting him, he realizes Balm is really, really dangerous. He has so much of potential, it's unbelievable to imagine it. And he's fighting him, and then he realizes this kid is a monster. He has a power that is unbeatable with the ability to instantly learn any move that's used against him. Something that I said, which was really missed out on in the fight against in the workshop, where he was attacked by an attack which couldn't be blocked, and he didn't replicate it instantly, which is something really weird. We haven't seen him use shadow attacks or shadow skills, but obviously he should be able to use it anytime he wants to. But nonetheless, we'll find out why he didn't use it if he does have the capability later on. Hopefully, we'll get an explanation to why he didn't copy him instantly and beat him with his own skill. But nonetheless, at this point, he really decimates Daniel, and they start chasing up towards the platform. Now, on the platform, things go totally berserk. Yura arrives. Kun arrives, and Team Sweet and Sour arrives. Sweet and Sour helps the remainder of those fighting against the Guardian, who's blocking the entrance to the platform. And Team Sweet and Sour, along with Kun Ran, end up helping them destroy that entire obstacle. They all start heading towards the Hell Train. On the Hell Train platform, Kun is in a fight with Rachel. Yiwa and our favorite Wagnan is busy fighting Casino, which is kind of unusual fight, I know. But he has a weapon that is used to actually put the devil to sleep or to injure living ignition weapons. So he's using this antimatter Shinsu bomb against Casino, and it's really doing a lot of damage to both himself and Casino at the same time. And with Yua over there, the flame is really dangerous. It can absolutely destroy him. Casino eventually ignites both hands at the same time, so he's using the complete devil power. And at this point, Balm ends up on the platform, and Balm sees Rachel, and Rachel says something and it triggers Balm to go berserk. Balm ends up giving in to the will of the Thorn, and he ends up drawing power out from himself and the Thorn at the same time. And this is alarming because his power goes through the roof. His power grows so rapidly that it's unbelievable to imagine that this was Balm. His power goes from punching hard to punching so hard that it could shatter a person's body in an instant. That's how far his power grows. And this growth doesn't stop here, it just keeps going exponential at this rate. So Balm goes through the scary process of unleashing his power, and he's just so ridiculously powerful. And eventually, when he's near the end of his limit, he is about to attack Team Fug, and he could have literally taken them all out. The entire plan to resurrect White would have been for nothing, and only Yuraha would have been on the train. She doesn't know how to resurrect White, and Rachel's plan would have fallen apart. But Rachel jumps in the way of Balm's attack, and she ends up doing what she does best. She pushes Balm down again, just like she did in season one. And that is where the big hit comes. Now, I'm actually going to stop right here and we'll continue with the next part, which is boarding the Hell train and the Slayer nominee competition. I might not be able to complete the full nominee competition and everything that goes into it, but I will get as close to it as possible. And there's still a ton that's going to go on within the Hell train that needs explaining. So I hope that you all do catch on. See you all then. Have a good day.